So I don't usually come on here and just openly declare that something is peak. I try to reserve that energy. I try to be responsible with it because if you call everything peak, the word stops meaning anything and we're left with nothing. But Witch Hat Atelier has forced my hand. 5 episodes in, and this show is genuinely, measurably, and aggressively good. Like, it's not even trying to hide it anymore. It's just up there doing whatever it wants, and the only appropriate response is to sit very still and let it happen to you. Episode 5 dropped on April 27th. It's called The Dragon's Labyrinth, and I need to talk about it. For the uninitiated, and if you are uninitiated, please go fix that. Witch Hat Atelier is a spring 2026 anime adaptation of Kamome Shirahama's manga. It has been running since 2016, over 7.5 million copies sold, and for some reason it took us this long just to get an anime. That's fine. We don't need to discuss who's responsible for that delay. What matters is we have it now. The show follows Coco. She's a regular girl, daughter of a dressmaker, who grows up being told that magic is something you are born with, a privilege of witches, not commoners. Then she discovers that's not entirely true. Magic is a skill. Anyone can do it if they know how. She accidentally turns her mom to stone, trying to figure it out, which is a rough Tuesday. Gets taken in by a wandering witch named Kifri, great name by the way, and begins training as his apprentice, alongside 3 other girls, Agat, Teshia, and Richa. And behind all of this is a shadowy group called the Brimmed Caps, forbidden magic practitioners, heretics, the kind of people who would absolutely have a very unsettling podcast. The last couple episodes landed Coco and her fellow apprentices inside a magical labyrinth in the witch city of Calm, trapped with a four-winged dragon after Coco. In classic Coco fashion, chased a masked figure without thinking about it too hard. Episode 4 ended with the group fractured, Coco standing alone, and everyone quietly furious with everyone else. Episode 5 is where it gets all resolved and then immediately made much, much more complicated. The first half of the episode is essentially a team building exercise, except the team building exercise involves a dragon and the very real possibility of dying. Agat, who up to this point has been operating at roughly the emotional temperature of a very disappointed professor, slowly comes around. She doesn't apologize because that would be too much growth too fast, but she stops actively undermining Coco, which in this context counts as character development. Teshia, on the other hand, just straight up apologizes, unprompted, directly, like a normal person who has feelings and acknowledges when she's been unfair. It's a simple scene, and it absolutely works. Then Coco, because Coco is built different, comes up with a plan to deal with the dragon. And the plan is not to fight it. The plan is to make it comfortable. I'm going to let that land for a second. The plan is to make the dragon comfortable, to distract a four-winged apex predator by constructing a magical cloud bed, because Kifri taught her that magic should bring happiness to all living things, and apparently that includes ancient stone labyrinth monsters. Now, on paper, this sounds like a plan that ends with everyone getting eaten, but the show executes so well, and the magic system is so internally logical that it becomes this weirdly touching sequence where 4 children are doing structural engineering calculations to make a cloud comfortable enough for a dragon to lie on. It's absurd, it's sweet. The dragon ends up rolling around on it like a golden retriever that found a particularly good patch of grass, and then Kifri shows up. Okay, this is the part. For 4 episodes, Kifri has been presented as a calm, gentle, mysterious mentor figure, soft voice, warm eyes, very good hat, the kind of guy who teaches you about magic and also probably knows how to make tea correctly. And then episode 5 takes all of that and goes, yeah, he can do this. He arrives on his sylph shoes, these magical slippers that let him move through the air, catches Agat mid-fall, holds her in one arm, and then while hovering draws a spell so advanced that The show basically has to stop and let you look at it for a moment. He pulls moisture from the clouds, all of it, clears the sky, and conjures a water dragon so massive that it swallows the labyrinth's actual dragon whole and floods the lower levels. The magic even blooms into a flower on impact. A flower. This man is fighting a dragon and making it aesthetically interesting at the same time. The animation studio, Bug Films, which is not a name that inspires confidence and yet delivered something that multiple reviewers have compared to Freerun Beyond Journey's End. I've seen one review describe it as the peak of fantasy animation, and watching it, that doesn't even feel like an overstatement. While the girls were doing their best to put a dragon to sleep with a magic cloud, Kifri arrived and rendered the problem irrelevant in approximately 12 seconds. That gap in power between a student and a master is something a lot of shows tell you about, but this show showed it to you. You felt the difference in your chest. But here's where it gets interesting, because episode 5 isn't just a great action episode, it's also doing something quietly unsettling. Before Kifri arrives, the masked brim cap, whose name is Ingween, has a moment to speak with Coco, holds her, speaks to her, expresses a desire to teach her, not threaten her, teach her, like a mentor, like considers himself responsible for her education in some capacity. It's framed gently, which makes it so much more disturbing. The brimmed caps aren't presented as cackling villains, they're presented as people with a different philosophy about magic, one that the established witch society finds very dangerous, and they are very, very interested in Coco specifically. They've called her their hope, they dragged her into that labyrinth so she can develop. So you have two adult authority figures with competing claims on this kid's future. One of them is clearly the bad option, except by the end of the episode, you're not entirely sure which one that is. Because then Kifri has a brief exchange with Nolnoa, another witch who arrived at the scene, and Kifri tells him, quietly and very firmly, not to report what happened. Don't tell the Knights Morales. Do not file the paperwork and just let this go. Nolnoa pushes back, sightings of a forbidden magic that are supposed to be reported. That's the rule. And Kifri just looks at him. The music cuts out completely, and the way he looks at Nolnoa, this cold, measured, I am telling you once look, is the single most effective 5 seconds this show has deployed so far. It doesn't confirm anything. It doesn't explain anything. It just opens a door and then closes it before you could see what's inside. Coco breaks down crying immediately after. It's the first real release she's had since the premiere. Her friends pull her in, even Agat softens just slightly. It's warm and earned. And then that look. After all that warmth, the episode ends on that look from Kifri. And somehow it chills everything that came before it in a way that retroactively makes you more invested in every scene Kifri has ever appeared in. This show is operating at a level that I genuinely was not prepared for. It's been 5 weeks. The animation has been movie quality for 5 weeks straight. The storytelling is patient without being slow. The magic system rewards attention. The characters are developing in ways that feel honest rather than convenient. And it's doing all this while maintaining a tone that is somehow simultaneously cozy and quietly terrifying. IMDb has episode 1 rated at a 9.1. Episode 5 is tracking above it. The show has a 8.71 on my anime list. These numbers aren't flukes. This is what consistent quality looks like. A lot of anime promises to be something special and then settles into a reasonably good version of whatever it promised. Witch Hat Atelier is not doing that. It is accelerating. Every episode has been better than the last. I don't know where Kifri's arc ends. I don't know what the Brim Caps actually want with Coco. I don't know what that look meant, but I know I'll be watching episode 6 on May 4th, probably 7 a.m., probably embarrassingly fast. If you're not watching this show, that's a personal problem, and I genuinely hope that you resolve it.